LacSportsNetwork.com and the LSN app. So with 16 seconds left, Georgetown's going to hold on to it and walk away from Long Island with an impressive win. They couldn't get here last year.
That's right, yeah.
But they were able to make it through some snow and some weather. Hopefully everybody's able to get back safe. Another storm coming up here on Sunday, but they walk away with the win. What's your impression from this game, what we saw?
Really impressed by this Hoya team, and now looking for them to maybe continue on and do some damage in the Big East this year. And for Hofstra, you know, a major stumble in their season so far, but you know, hopefully they can hit the reset button. They've got a full week to prepare for Ohio State next weekend. So, you know, I'm sure Coach Tierney is not going to be completely pleased with the effort today, and it's moving onward and forward.
Remember that Hofstra-Ohio State game, a game you can see right here on LSN next weekend. Hey, Finn, thanks for coming in. This was a lot of fun.
Travis.
Able to save us from some issues. We were able to get you in here last minute. The former Hofstra player, current Denver Outlaw, Finn Sullivan, joining us in the booth. But once again, your final score, number 19, Georgetown 14, Hofstra 6. Thanks for watching our CAA Game of the Week on Lac Sports Network. For Finn Sullivan, our producer Dylan Hand, and our entire crew, I'm Travis Eldridge. Our next game comes your way Friday from Philadelphia. A Philly 4 double dip with St. Joe's, Drexel, UPenn, and Villanova battling. But for right now, we'll send you back inside the LSN Broadcast Center. Have a good one.
Welcome back into the LSN Broadcast Center on this lovely Wednesday night. I'm Megan Triplett. He's Travis Eldridge, and we have a lot to get to in the next 60 minutes.
Yeah, with conference tournaments just hours away now, we're less than 24 hours away. It's time for some conference awards before we get to the semifinals.
And today we learned who received some honors from the CAA conference. So first up, let's talk about the Offensive Player of the Year. That honor went to junior Charlie Kitchen. Kitchen is the first Blue Hen to earn CAA Offensive Player of the Year accolade since Curtis Dixon did it in 2010. Kitchen finished the regular season ranked 4th in the conference in goals. He had 35 and assists with 25. Now, it's his second year in a row with 35 goals and his highest mark for assists in a single season. He also set a new school record, scoring a goal in 31 straight games entering this weekend's tournament.
Meanwhile, Kitchen sharing that honor with Brendan Sunday, also selected as the co-offensive player of the year by the league's coaches. A co-captain this year for Towson. Sunday, one of the top all-around offensive threats in the CAA. He leads Towson's offense 58 points, 39 goals, 19 assists. Sunday also scored on 39% of his shots this year, scoring 3 game-winning goals and adding a trio of man-up tallies. He is 2 points shy of becoming the program's first 60-point getter since the 2013 campaign.
And it didn't stop there for Towson. Tigers goalie Sean Scanoni was the CAA Defensive Player of the Year. Scanoni, who was named a first-team midseason All-American by Inside Lacrosse, becomes the first UMass student-athlete named CAA Defensive Player of the Year. Now, the senior leads the nation with a .630 save percentage, while his 8.15 goals against average paces the conference, and he's second nationally. Now, 10 times this season, Scanoni has turned in 10-plus saves, including a 21-save effort on April 20th.
Yeah, first time a UMass goalie has had 21 saves since Doc Schneider did it back in 2006. Meanwhile, Delaware attackman Ty Kurtz voted the CAA Rookie of the Year, marking the first time a Delaware player earned the award since Alex Smith, the great faceoff man, back in 2004. The three-time CAA Rookie of the Week posted 31 goals, led all CAA freshmen with 49 points. Kurtz broke the record for most goals in a single game by a freshman at Delaware when he put up 7 against Fairfield, just 2 points from breaking the single-season record by a Blue Hens freshman. He'll have a chance to do that tomorrow.
And Minutemen head coach Greg Cannella, he was named the CAA Coach of the Year. Cannella has guided UMass to a 10-4 overall record and a 4-1 mark in league play to capture a share of the program's second straight CAA regular season championship and the #1 seed in the conference championship. Now, the Minutemen boast the 4th best scoring margin in the country at 4.36 and is second in the country, allowing just 8.43 goals per game. Now, this is Cannella's 4th Coach of the Year honor and second straight for the longest 10-year head coach in the conference.
So now that you know the individual honors, here's a look at who made up the All-CAA first team. Taking a look at the attack unit, you got Charlie Kitchen from Delaware and Brendan Sunday, joined by Ryan Tierney from Hofstra. Tierney putting up big numbers this season as a junior, as the Pride offensively really relied on him. Dean DeSimone, another Blue Hen, joined by Austin Haynes as Blue Hens to be on this first team. Townsend along with Sunday, represented by Zach Goodrich at the short stick defensive midfield position, along with Kobe Smith on defense and Alex Woodall at the faceoff spot. Drexel with just one guy on this list, Marshall King, the midfielder. He plays technically attack, but listed as a midfielder, gets the midfield nod on this first team. UMass got Trainer and Isaac Paparo on that list as well as Scanoni.
Here's a look at the second team. A lot of great players on this list from the conference. You got Reed Bowering from Drexel making that second team honor, and then you got Connor Mailman also. So Drexel added on a couple people from the second team list, and also Quinn from Drexel as well. And then when you look at Towson, they've got Grant Maloof on there, they got Bowden on there, and then from Delaware, a couple of great players with Bruner and, where's that name? Aloy also making the list, and DeLuca. So a lot of great players on that second team list.
One guy curiously left off the first two teams is Matt Varian from Drexel. Surprise to me, but, you know, I don't have a vote. Coaches have a vote. Anyway, how about the all-rookie team in the CAA? The guy who was hot in pursuit of Ty Kurtz for that Rookie of the Year award, Gabriel Prosick from UMass. He was stellar in his first season with the Minutemen, a goal-scoring machine. Actually led the conference in man-up goals this year. He tallied 8 of them for the Minutemen. He and Kurtz were really the story throughout, but UMass also with another couple of guys who played well throughout the season. When you look at Matthew Hill, the short stick defensive midfielder, and Kevin Cutnella, who has bumped up and kind of become part of that primary midfield unit for UMass. They like to run a bunch of different midfielders. Patrick Drake had a nice season for Fairfield in his first year there. And Drexel goalie Ross Blumenthal has solidified his spot as the starter for the Dragons, and we will see him in goal tomorrow night in the CAA semifinals.
Let's move on to another conference. We also learned the Ivy League's postseason awards. And let's start with the Player of the Year. That honor goes to TD Erlin. TD has been a force at the X for the Bulldogs this season, taking 262 of 330 faceoffs to boast a nationally best .794 faceoff win percentage. Now, he also paces the country in ground balls per game, averaging about over 14. And just last week in Yale's Ivy League season finale, the juniors set a new NCAA record for most faceoff wins without a single loss after going a perfect 26 of 26. Erlin now owns 4 of the top 9 single game performances in NCAA Division I history.
You know, we thought we had seen the best with Trevor Baptiste, but
Man, TD giving Trevor a run for his money. How about Penn's Sam Hanley? I love this guy. Unanimously named the Rookie of the Year in the Ivy. Hanley becomes the third Penn freshman to earn Rookie of the Year in the last 4 seasons and just the 4th in program history. Hanley currently pacing the Quakers. He's got a team best 53 points on 31 goals and 22 assists. Hanley's 53 points also establishing a new program record for points by a freshman. It surpassed the previous mark of 42 set by John Ward in 1995. I think this kid should have been on the Tourathon nominee list.
Hey, speaking of Penn, Penn's Mike Murphy was unanimously selected the Ivy League Coach of the Year. Murphy, in his 10th season at the helm, guided Penn to its first Ivy League championship since 1988, as the Quakers posted a perfect 6-0 mark for just the 2nd time in program history. This season, it also marks the first time in the 10-year history of the Ivy League tournament that Penn will enter semifinal Friday as the #1 seed.
NYC, here we come. Over to the Big East, Villanova junior Connor Kirst, the midfielder of the year. Kirst leads the Wildcats in points this season with 46, also had 22 ground balls. Kirst ranks 5th in the conference in goals per game and points per game in the 14 he's played. 3 of the goals this season have been marked as game winners.
Wow.
So Kirst has stepped up when Villanova has needed him the most.
And then Denver faceoff specialist Brett Bowes was named the Freshman of the Year. Now, as you know, Bowes had some big shoes to fill in the faceoff
You
dot.
could say that again.
Right, as the replacement for Trevor Baptiste. But hey, he's been very successful as he leads the league with a .701 winning percentage in conference games and a .608 winning percentage in just 13 games as a Pioneer rookie. Now, Bowes is currently approaching 200 faceoff wins, going 188 for 309 with 78 ground balls to just 7 turnovers. This guy's a freshman. Wow.
He's done quite well for himself. Here's a look at some of the other Big East award winners. Georgetown senior Daniel Baccaro, the coach's pick for Big East Attack Player of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year honors awarded to Marquette senior LSM Noah Richard. His brother Jake ended up pretty well as well. Providence senior goalie Tate Boyce earning his 2nd Goalkeeper of the Year accolade of his 4-year career. He also won the award back in 2017, an All-American campaign for him. Villanova head coach Michael Corrado and his staff winning the Coaching Staff of the Year. I like that, coaching staff instead of just coach. That's the 3rd time that the Villanova coaching staff and head coach Mike Corrado have won that honor.
All right, let's move on to some other news, some high school coaching news. Now, according to Inside Lacrosse, John Nostrand, who has led Haverford for the past 28 years, will be announced as the next Gilman head coach. Now, it is reported that Nostrand notified his team Wednesday morning and will finish up this season with the Fords, who are currently ranked number 10 nationally.
Obviously taking over a prestigious program there with Gilman School. Likes of Davey Emla and Marcus Holman.
That's right.
Played at Gilman, among many other great players. Why don't we switch gears now and get to some highlights from the day. No Division I games yet. We got to wait till tomorrow for the semifinals, but not the case in some other divisions on this Wednesday. A gigantic game in Division II. Semifinals of the Northeast 10 Conference. 5th-ranked Merrimack taking on Lemoyne, the 2nd-ranked team in the 3rd-ranked team in the country. Early on, Lemoyne off to a great start. Devin Andrews makes it 3-0 Dolphins, #Fins up. But Merrimack responding in a big way. Sean Black to Christian Thomas chops into that score. 3-1 game. And Lemoyne's lead down to 1. Charlie Bertrand all by himself, a 3-goal run for Merrimack. And they've tied things up at 3 apiece, and the run would continue. The defending national champs, they want more. They get more. Black to Michael O'Connell. 6 straight goals for Merrimack. They would take a 6-3 lead in the 2nd quarter. But late in the first half, Lemoyne with an answer. Ryan Cosgrove from way downtown. A little unsettled situation. Finishes, ends the 6-goal run. It's a 2-goal game as we head into the break. 3rd quarter now. We're knotted up at 7. Evan Kelly. Pretty feed to Riley Larson. Lemoyne back out on top. Dolphins with a 1-goal lead. Let's flash to the fourth. Lemoyne still up one, but Black gonna get one back. Taking his man to the woodshed at X. We're all knotted up at 9 apiece, 12 minutes to go, but back and forth we would go. Black at it again now. Merrimack takes the lead, and he does, it looks like the same play, but I swear it's different. Merrimack up to under 6 minutes to go, 11-9. Under 30 seconds to go. In the fourth, Lemoyne needs a goal to tie this thing up. Matt Hutchings, he provides it all by himself. We're knotted up at 11 apiece with 25 seconds on the clock. So we're going to overtime, right? Dolphins have other ideas. Hutchings again, this time to Kelly on the doorstep with 3 seconds left. That, folks, is your game winner. Lemoyne walking away with a 12-11 win. They are on to the NE10 finals. Davis Cronin had arguably his best day in a Merrimack uniform. He won 21 of 24 faceoffs, led all players with 9 ground balls, but not quite enough. Sean Black, really good for the Warriors with 5 points. On the Lemoyne side of things, Riley Larson, 3 goals and an assist. Cosgrove with 3 goals. Hutchings, what a performance he had down the stretch. He had 4 points in all as they take down the defending national champs. The Warriors go down, the Dolphins move on.
Just wait for selection show Sunday. All right, let's get to that D3 life in the Centennial Conference playoff. 15th ranked and number 3 seed Dickinson taking on Tuesday and 8th ranked Gettysburg College this afternoon. We're all knotted up at 2 as John Lockwood gazes with a defender and sprints for the net and scores. So Gettysburg takes a 3-2 lead, but now we're all knotted up at 3 again, still in the first. Jack Harvey jukes left, fires right. Gettysburg pulls ahead and makes it 4-3. Dickinson now down 3-7. They're trying to come back out on this one. Tucker Booth sprints behind the net, passes to Nick Goals. So Dickinson cuts it to 3. Start of the second half, Dickinson only down 1 at this point. It's Alex Hosker. He makes a behind-the-net pass to Jack O'Connell, and he shoots and scores. We're all knotted up at 7. Knotted up at 10 less than 90 seconds in the third. Tommy Heller cuts in the right and bolts for the 4th goal of the night. Gettysburg goes up 11-10. Now Gettysburg up 13-10. That's a fast play. Tommy Heller for goal number 5. Gettysburg extends that lead and makes it 4, but Dickinson down 4, looking for another rally on this one. Brody Phillips fires the ball right to Jack O'Connell, standing right next to the net. So now it's a 3-goal game. Gettysburg up 14-11. 4 minutes left to go. It's Michael McCormick fights his way through the defense and whips that one into the net. It's the winning goal for Gettysburg. Gettysburg would go on to win this one 15-13. And so for Dickinson, O'Connell had 6 goals and assists. Phillips had 3 goals, 2 assists on the day. Lockwood added on 4 points. But it wasn't enough for as Gettysburg. Heller had 5 goals. McCormick added on 4. And Fletcher had 4 points in the big win.
How about some more Division III action? Liberty League action. St. Lawrence traveling to Rochester to take on the top-seeded RIT Tigers in the semifinals today. RIT off to a hot start. Ryan Tandy, he's handy to have around the crease. Tigers roaring to a 3-1 lead. St. Lawrence, though, not going away. Mark Mahoney slips and falls, keeps it, and he gets the finish. That's a top play nominee. 3-3. We're knotted up early. Let's flash to the second quarter. Knotted up at 4. Transition opportunity for RIT, and they love to run. Trevor Smith to Spencer Bell. Ring it. RIT up 1. But St. Lawrence continue to make things interesting with the #1 team in the country. We're knotted up at 6. Ryan Barnable to Tandy again. 3-goal run for RIT. And they would take a 9-6 lead in this one. Late in the first half, Mike Donnelly, though, with an answer, getting one back for St. Lawrence. 9-7 as we head into the break. Let's flash ahead to the second half, third quarter. Early on, Sean Nally in transition, taking its time. Here we go. Nally in the middle. Pretty feed to Dawson Tate. RIT up 4, and St. Lawrence doing their best to try to hang on here down the stretch. Jack Hennessy, pour me one, wrapping around, cuts it back to a 3-goal game, but just too much from the Tigers in this one. RIT would throw one more in to make it a 17-13 game, and the Tigers are moving on to the Liberty League Championship. They will play Union in the title game later on in the week. When you take a look at some of the stats, Hennessy, nice game with 3 goals and an assist for St. Lawrence, but Tate with 7 points, Curry with 3, Nally with 3, RIT putting up some big numbers as they move on. Top team in the country heading to the championship game.
And if you missed any of the action, don't forget you can watch all of our highlights from all of the lacrosse games on our video on demand section on the app or at lacsportsnetwork.com.
All right, coming up here on Lacrosse Now, what if the NCAA tournament started today? U.S. Lacrosse Magazine has some projections, what the bracket could possibly look like. We'll show it to you and give you our analysis.
And plus, the Big Ten Championship kicks off tomorrow. We preview and tell you what you need to know before the big game.
But first, a lot on the line tomorrow in the CAA semifinals. I've got the call, but before we travel out to UMass, I'll help you break down the 2 matchups we're going to see on LSN.
Tyler Pace with the Calgary Roughnecks. This is Box Lacrosse 101. Today we'll be talking about shuffle passing. As we're doing this drill, we want to make sure that our stick stays above our shoulder and we're passing, we're following through, right? We're not making any cradle motions when we catch it. We're controlling the ball before we release it. And we're not trying to race up the floor as we shuffle. It's more about control than it is about speed.
You don't give a girl confidence. She already came with a lifetime supply. The question is, what do you do with all that confidence? Do you ignore it? Or do you give her the tools to harness it? Tools that will help her trust her instincts, make her aim true, and put her in complete command. Provide her with these things, and that confidence will grow strong enough to banish all doubt. You can't give a girl something she already has, but with a little help, you can give her the power to change everything. No stringing, no adjustments, a revolution in women's lacrosse, the Dynasty Warp Pro.
You're watching LAC Sports Network.
Hey guys, it's Megan with Ellison, and I have some exciting news that you are going to absolutely love. We have a new show coming out called Ellison Off Script, and it's pretty simple. We go off script, and we have the best of the best in the lax world that we talk to. First guest, Miles Jones. Second guest, Marie McCool. We go completely off script, talking about music, fashion, clothes, whatever just comes to mind. So just be on the lookout. It's coming soon.
Lacrosse Now is brought to you in part by New Balance Lacrosse. Built for lacrosse.
it's time to dive deeper into the CAA semifinals coming your way tomorrow. Now, in the first game at UMass, 4-seed Drexel takes on the top seed at Minutemen. In the regular season meeting, the Dragons actually led 6-2 at the half before UMass outscored them 8-3 in the second on the way to a 2-goal win. And then as the other semifinal puts 3-seed Delaware against 2-seed Towson. The Tigers won the regular season meeting just 2 weeks ago. Starting faceoff man Alex Woodall got injured in the first quarter of that game and did not return. But Towson still found a way to win that game. And meanwhile, with the loss and then the loss to UMass last Friday, the Blue Hens have lost 2 straight entering the tournament. So now we sit here with Travis, because Travis, you are on the call of these 2 games. So you're traveling to UMass, and these are some 2 big games, and you know the most probably about all 4 of these teams.
Been pretty heavily invested throughout the season.
Let's start now with Drexel and UMass. What's the one thing that you're looking forward to in this game?
It's going to be interesting. Drexel's offense can score with anybody. They're top 13 in the country in scoring offense this season. The question mark becomes, can they stop UMass at the other end? Because while UMass doesn't put up quite as many goals, they can still very capably finish at the other end. And UMass's and Drexel's question mark has been the defense all year long. Can they get enough stops at that end and create opportunities for their offense? But if Drexel can cash in on some man-up opportunities, if they get some flags, they've got one of the best man-up offenses in the entire country. They're top 3 in the nation. 50% of the time when they have a man-up, they score a goal. If they can get a bunch of penalties on UMass and capitalize, make the Minutemen pay, this could be a really interesting game. The face-off situation also interesting because Jimmy Coita had a lot of success against Tom Myers in the first half of that regular season meeting. Tom Myers kind of flipped the script on him for UMass in the second half. One of the big reasons why they were able to, the Minutemen were able to come back and win that first game.
Now, so let's transition to UMass. Okay, we know they're good. They're the #1 seed in the conference. But if you're UMass, what do they need to do to kind of go into this game to not be upset by Drexel or give the Dragons that big lead that happened last time?
Well, you talked to Greg Cannella, and he said that the first game was really the only inspiration they needed to go out there and not kind of lay an egg, because they walked out there and they weren't ready for that first game, and they were down 6-2 at the half, and all of a sudden they were like, oh, we got to bounce back here. That was their first CAA conference game. So Coach Cannella told us in the conference call this week, he told the guys, if you aren't ready to play and don't come out there, Drexel's going to come in and kick your butts, because Drexel has shown the capability to play with anybody in the country. And despite the fact that this is the 1-4 matchup, me personally, having watched Drexel play, I wouldn't be that surprised if the Dragons made this a really good game or came away with a win, because they've been that talented and they've given a lot of teams a lot of trouble. They haven't finished off some of these games, but they had a 1-goal loss to UMass. They played Towson pretty tough last week. They have given everybody a lot of trouble all season long, and they're almost due for a win in one of these games. We'll see about tomorrow.
And a couple of other teams that have been giving a lot of people trouble in the conference is Towson and Delaware. I think this matchup I'm really, really excited about. You've been talking to the coaches. You've been talking to some players. What is the talk, the lingo going on right now?
So Delaware's got to bounce back. They're still looking for that signature win over Towson or UMass, who've kind of been the class of the last 2 years under Ben DeLuca. They've been close. They've played both of them to really tight games. My biggest question mark for Delaware comes at the face-off X, because they struggled against Towson a couple weeks ago, even after Alex Woodall went out, and they struggled against UMass last week. So for Delaware, if Towson gets up and is up by a couple of goals, not being able to win face-offs is a huge issue for the Blue Hens when you're down, because how do you string runs of 2 or 3 goals in a row without putting a ton of pressure on your defense? And Matt DeLuca has been so good in goal, and Austin Haynes is deservedly an all-CAA performer this year as a long pole. But when you ask your defense to get 3, 4, 5 stops in a row against the Towson offense with guys like Brendan Sunday and Brody McLean and Luke Frommert, who have all had spectacular seasons, that's a lot to ask of your defense. They're going to have to find a way to get the ball at the middle of the field, whether it's winning a faceoff or mucking it up enough so you can get a loose ball or make it a ground ball on a 50-50. They got to find a way to win faceoffs, especially if they go down early, because stringing runs together when you're not winning faceoffs is really hard.
Yeah, and then of course, for Towson, I think a big topic of conversation is always turnovers with them. I mean, you spoke to Sean Nadalin. Is that a thing that they're looking into? Because I think they had like 17-18 against Delaware last game.
They've been a lot better in the turnover department as of late. There was a point in the middle of the season where they were one of the worst teams in the country in turnovers per game. It's gotten better, but when I look at Towson, the team that we saw beat Hopkins and the team that we saw beat Loyola, and that Loyola game probably wasn't their best game, but the team that we saw beat Hopkins, that was the best I've seen Towson play all year. I'm still waiting for them to have that performance again late in the season. I don't know if it comes here in the semifinals, but I think that's the height of what they can do. I want to see them do that again because I don't think we've gotten it. Like, they played really well against Duke, but the turnovers killed them there. Denver was sloppy, slow. Their offense didn't quite get it going. I want to see the best Towson team because I think this team has tons of talent. They've shown it. I want to see that performance again. Yeah. I think they've got it. They just got to bring it out.
And let's not forget, Towson was once ranked number 1.
They were the number 1 team in the country.
I feel like it was a long time ago.
They won a game as the number 1 team in the country.
Yes, they did. Let's not forget, this team is impressive.
Yeah, they're good. They might be the favorite if you haven't picked. They still look at Towson, despite being the 2 seed, as paid attention to UMass, one of the favorites in this conference. Towson still might have a chance at an at-large berth too if they get to the championship. But we'll get to that in a second. You can of course see those games right here on LSN tomorrow night. Mitch Belisle joining me for the call. First, of course, Drexel and UMass. 5 p.m. Eastern. Our coverage here on LSN begins 4:30 Eastern time. Special pregame version of CAA Press Pass leading into that first semifinal. And then the nightcap at Garber Field. Delaware versus Towson. Remember, those two already met in last year's CAA semifinals. That was a thriller, a 9-8 OT win by the Tigers. You can see both games here on LACSportsNetwork.com, the LSN app. You can download it, Xbox, Amazon Fire Stick, Roku, Chromecast. Search LAC Sports Network, download the app. Watch on your TV, watch on your phone, computer, whatever. No excuse. It's going to be a fun night.
And coming up on Lacrosse Now, who is in, who is out? We'll break down the latest Division I bracketology to tell you who is on the bubble entering conference tournament weekend.
And speaking of bubble, would Denver make the tournament if they don't win the Big East? We'll look ahead to tomorrow's Big East semifinals with analyst Chris Marshall.
Speed. Power. This trophy is not given, it must be earned. The NCAA Men's Lacrosse Championships. May 25th through 27th at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia.
In the stick, boom, on the money, cradle and a pass. Win the first championship!
Visit ncaa.com/lacrosse to get your tickets today.
roll on with some conference tournament previews and look ahead to the Big East semifinals tomorrow night out in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah, it's a league where, despite some success in the non-conference, likely only going to get one team in the NCAAs, after they got 3 teams in last year. 3 teams last year, likely only one this season. So it's win or season's over for Providence and Georgetown in the semifinals. Friars closed the season strong, somewhat miraculously beat Villanova in overtime last Saturday. That clinched the 3 seed. Georgetown, though, 11-2 all-time against the Friars, including a win in the regular season. Daniel Beccaro, Jake Caraway combined for 11 points in that 17-15 victory. But if there's anybody who can stop that Hoya offense, it might be goalie Tate Boyce. The Providence netminder ranks first among active NCAA goalies with 715 career saves. He's nearly 12 saves per game this year, ranked top 10 in the country in the first meeting with Georgetown. Despite giving up 17 goals, he still made 15 saves. Can a brother get some help on defense?
All right, the other semifinal brings us a rematch of a great regular season matchup between Villanova and Denver. Now, the Wildcats beat the Pios at Peter Barton Stadium earlier this month, the Pioneers' first ever regular season loss in Big East play. But since that game, Villanova has lost 2 of its last 3. And one of the off-the-radar guy to keep your eye on is short-stick defensive midfielder TJ Comizio. Now, the senior has been terrific this year, and he's been a catalyst making plays off the ground. He's averaging more than 5 ground balls per game in Villanova's wins, but less than 3 in the team's 6 losses. Now, in the win versus Denver a few weeks ago, Comizio scooped up 3 ground balls, caused 3 turnovers, and had an assist.
Big-time performance from him. A former Big East school hosting the Big Ten tournament. That would be Rutgers. The 4 seed, they get the lovely task of playing top-ranked Penn State in the Big Ten semis tomorrow night. These two actually just played last weekend in Happy Valley. Penn State escaping with a 1-goal win. And once again, Grant Ament, stellar in that one, tossing out 7 assists. He's been the guy all season for the Nittany Lions. After missing last year due to injury, he's lit it up. He's just 6 assists away from the NCAA single-season record, and he's already set the single-season records for points and assists at Penn State. Oh, and he got a shout-out from NFL wide receiver, former Nittany Lion lacrosse player Chris Hogan in a podcast with Paul Carcaterra this week.
That kid,
Grant Ament.
Yeah. I mean, watching him stop and start behind the cage is like insane to me.
Yeah, he's got some juice.
I remember we used to play with the kid Matt McCready's.
I remember him. He's a Philly kid.
Yep. And that was my I remember watching him, and he reminds me a lot of him, the way that he plays, just like the ability to stop and start, and how explosive he is just incredible.
Cool to have a guy like Chris Hogan shouting out your athletic ability. You can, of course, listen to the full podcast on the Overtime podcast brought to you by U.S. Lacrosse. Also, check out the video from the interview at U.S. Lacrosse Magazine's website right now. Great conversation, by the way, between Clark and Chris. It's cool.
It's cool to see that, what he's doing in his offseason. Watching some lacrosse.
Exactly.
It's really cool. All right, the other semifinal gives us a rematch of Hopkins and Maryland from last weekend. That was a surprising result. The Blue Jays beating the Terps 16-11 in College Park to keep their NCAA tournament hopes alive. It's the 2nd season in a row that the two have met in the Big Ten tournament. Last year, it was in the title game won by Hopkins. Now, if they want to make it a 2-game sweep of the Terps, Hopkins will need another big game for Big Ten Freshman of the Year, Joey Epstein. The top overall recruit in the year's incoming freshman class has lived up to the hype. He led the Blue Jays in points during the regular season, including a 6-point performance last week in the win over Maryland.
For more, we bring in analyst Chris Marshall. Chris, why don't we start in the Big Ten with 1 versus 4? But Penn State and Rutgers was quite the game last weekend. Came down to the wire. Nittany Lions get a nice bounce, finish off a goal to win by 1 over the Scarlet Knights. Can they do it again? And does Penn State really even need to prove anything at this point?
I mean, no, if they lose, it'll make their first round game a little bit more difficult. But I mean, they're a lock for the tournament. I think at this point, it's just about working out the kinks. You want to make sure that you're playing your best lacrosse, when May starts, and we're here now. So they've got to make sure that they're able to keep the machine running. I mean, they haven't lost a game since February, so they're rolling. They scored double digits in all their games. So I mean, this is a team that's playing at a high level, and I think you look at Grant Ament. I think this is an opportunity if he really wants to win the Tewaaraton Trophy. He's got to go out and do the same stuff he was doing during the regular season into the postseason. But I mean, a lot of times, if you got the best player, that gives you the best chance to win.
Yeah, and Amen just a handful of assists away from setting the NCAA single-season record for assists, something I think he's probably going to do by the end of this season. For the Scarlet Knights, they know they got to win this thing, probably the whole thing, if they want to get into the NCAAs. The offense has proven to be pieces. Do they have enough?
It's going to be tough. I think, you look at your opponent and you look at the way Rutgers has been playing this season. They've been inconsistent. They have shown the ability to score goals, but I think if they get into a shootout, it might be a long night. So for me, you got to rely on those players that have been playing at a high level. Charlin Beatties and Mullins are those guys, and you need Edelman to come up with a really big game. If they can control some of the possession and get a goalie who's hot, make the defense or have the defense put Edelman in a position to be successful so he can make some early stops, then that'll give them the best chance. If they can hold Penn State closer to 10 or 11 goals, then they've got a good chance to win this game. I'm not going to say a great chance, but a decent chance. But if they get into a shootout, I think it's going to come up all Nittany Lions.
The other semifinal is the rivalry part 2. Hopkins and Maryland gave us a shock last weekend as Hopkins gets the best of the Terps. There's no way they do it twice in a row, right? John Tillman doesn't let that happen.
I would say that it's probably pretty unlikely. You look at this Hopkins squad. I mean, they're 7-6 on the season. I'm going to stop short of saying that this is a must-win game for them. I think they are firmly on the bubble.
Oh, come on. It's a must-win.
Right now. I mean, it's a must-win. If they lose a close one and they get some help from some other teams, then maybe. But they're going to have to play at a high level. I think you look at the depth of scoring they had in that game. I mean, they had like 10 goal scorers. They were really playing at a high level. And they didn't even get a particularly good game out of their goalie. So I think if they're going to if they come out and get the win in this one again, I will be surprised. I suspect Jared Bernhardt will probably want to remedy the 2 points that he had in their last matchup. He's having a great season.
Yeah, the crazy stat from that first game is Hopkins got the win, 16-11, and made 2 saves. They made two saves. Yeah. That's insane. Let's go to the Big East. It's likely a one-bid league. It's at Denver.
I think without question.
Yeah, it's at that semifinal. It's the late game on tomorrow night. Can the Wildcats trip up the Pioneers a second time?
I mean, anything's possible. I mean, you look at this Denver team that's been to the tournament, 9 years in a row, the 5 trips to the Final Four, they won a championship. And I mean, this is about the closest I think we've seen to them missing the tournament. And I think that, like you said, this is a one big league. So Denver's got to play at a high level. And I think one of the things that'll help for them, obviously, with Trevor Baptiste gone, you haven't been hearing much about the faceoff X, but Booz for Denver was the freshman of the year. I mean, he's over 60% on the season. He's nearing 200 wins on the season. So he's playing at a high level. I think when you look at French in the goal, what are you going to get? Obviously, Reedy has been the guy for the last 4 seasons. He got the yank. French has started 3 games now. So we'll see what he's going to give you down the stretch. But, I mean, they're going to need big games out of their offensive players. I mean, we're a far cry, from the 90-point season that we saw Canizero have a few years back. So this is a team that needs to score more goals. They're only averaging 11 on the season. But like I said, I think this is as vulnerable as I've ever seen a Denver team.
Finally, Georgetown Providence, that other semifinal. Hoyas or Friars give Denver or Villanova the most problems?
I want to say it's probably Georgetown. I like Providence. I think Providence is a good squad. They have trouble scoring. And I think you look at Providence over the last couple of weeks, they haven't been able to break into double digits in the last 3 weeks. They did manage to get 1 win. But I think the offense from Georgetown, I mean, you look at Caraway and Vaccaro, both those guys, big points this season, 70+. I mean, I think the wild card, of course, is Tate Boyce. But you look at this Georgetown squad, I think they've got the firepower to win the tournament. And I just have more confidence in their offense than I do in Providence's defense.
It's going to be a busy Thursday night. Chris, appreciate the insight. Thanks, man.
Anytime.
All right, thanks, guys. Now, still ahead, we aren't done with the D3 Live. We have more updates and more highlights coming at you after the break. But first, we'll show you what the men's bracket could have possibly looked like if the NCAA tournament started today. All that and more coming up.
Speed. Power. This trophy is not given, it must be earned. The NCAA Men's Lacrosse Championships. May 25th through 27th at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia.
In the stick, boom, on the money, cradle and a pass. Win the first championship!
Visit ncaa.com/lacrosse to get your tickets to...
Welcome back. Now, this week and this weekend is jammed packed with a lot of games and a lot of teams fighting for a spot in the NCAA tournament. But what if the tournament were to start today? Hypothetically speaking, of course.
Luckily, we don't have to hypothetically speak. We actually have hypothetical things on paper that we can talk about. US Lacrosse Magazine with their latest bracketology, thanks to Patrick Stevens. He's great at this. He takes all the numbers, and this is what the bracket looks like. Penn State, the #1 seed in their projected bracket. That's pretty much unanimous across any bracketology that you talk about. The 2 seed down there is Duke, despite the loss in the semifinals to Notre Dame in the ACC. You got the 3 seed Virginia, Penn in the 4 spot, Yale in the 5, and then at 6 Loyola, 7 Notre Dame, Maryland at 8. Something you notice in this bracket, teams like a Towson sitting there on the bubble in, despite not possibly not getting the automatic bid in the CAA. UMass instead slotted in there as the automatic qualifier. Your first 3 out, according to US Lacrosse Magazine: Hopkins, Ohio State, and North Carolina.
All right, so Travis, so break this down for me. Tell me what you were most shocked to see as this, hypothetically speaking, bracket.
I don't know if I'm shocked to see it, but I think the more you look at the numbers, and I think people might have been surprised about this a couple of weeks ago, but if Towson wins in the semifinals in the CAA, I think they're in. They've got an RPI right now of 9. That's actually better than Syracuse at the moment if you look at the NCAA RPI. And Syracuse can't get it, like, they don't have another game to play. So they got to sit there and wait. They don't have another thing to put in there. So Towson, when you look at what they've done, their top 5 wins, they've got 1 win in the top 5. They got 3 wins over top 10 teams, 5 wins over top 20 teams, and no bad losses. The Towson's resume is actually really strong. There's, because of some of the inability of other teams to boost their resume, I think the thing that stands out to me is Towson being as comfortably into the field in this projection as they look like they are.
So having 2 CAA teams, not shocked by that, but just kind of like, oh, goodness, if UMass wins, of course, the CAA tournament.
And I think Towson's got to get to the championship game. They can't lose to Delaware in the semis, I don't think, and still get in. I think that's going to be too much of an RPI hit. But if they get to the championship game, I think they have a real legit shot if they would lose to UMass.
Okay, now you mentioned the first 3 teams out.
Yeah.
Were you shocked by that, especially when you talk about, Johns Hopkins, Ohio State, North Carolina? North Carolina has that win against Duke. That's all you can really
I think
say.
North Carolina's out. They needed to win again. They have the win over Duke, the win over Syracuse that was really good. I think they had to beat Virginia. When you look at their non-conference, they just didn't beat anybody. And unfortunately for the Tar Heels, they had a nice stretch run, and they had a chance against Virginia, and they almost did it, but they couldn't close that one out. The team, to me, that is hanging around there, if Hopkins doesn't beat Maryland again, because I think Hopkins has to beat Maryland again here in the Big Ten semifinals in order to have a shot. But if Hopkins doesn't do that, Ohio State, despite not making the Big Ten tournament, still kind of lingering there. They didn't lose in the non-conference, and I know the resume isn't great, but when you look at it, the one loss to Michigan might be the one that kills them, but they've got a top 5 win. They just beat Hopkins not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, at Homewood. So you can't. So if both those teams are close in the resumes, then head-to-head has to come into play a little bit. Chris Cotter was telling me that on ESPN Lacrosse Weekly this week. So Ohio State's kind of lingering in there. If things work out and some teams lose, maybe the Buckeyes have a chance. I don't know if I'd hold my breath, but they're in there. I think between Ohio State, Hopkins, Cornell, and Towson, those are like your 4 teams maybe for 2 spots.
Okay, and then you mentioned Cornell. They're the last 3 in with Towson and Syracuse. What do you got to say about your Orange?
I'm surprised that Syracuse has dropped as much as they are, but their RPI has dropped down to 10. That loss to North Carolina kind of hurt them. The Colgate loss has not helped their numbers. That first loss of the season has kind of weighed them down, because otherwise Syracuse has a win over a top 5 team. They've got 5 top 10 wins. There are not a lot of other teams throughout. Like, there's Duke is just about the only other team when you look at the rest of the RPI that has 5 wins over top 10 teams. His Syracuse team is playing about as good as anybody until the last 3 minutes of that 4-5 game in the ACC tournament. There's no way they get left out. There's absolutely no way they get left out. But the fact that they might not get a home game in the first round really surprises me. I think they've got to be somewhere in the 7 to 8 variety, but the numbers may bring them down, and that would hurt for Syracuse if they've got to go on the road in the opening round.
Now, hypothetically speaking, I know there's still a lot of lacrosse games left to be played, and all this could not all happen. However, if you're a team right now, today, what team you're probably the most worried about?
Who's in the field?
Who's in the field?
Oh, who's in this projected field? I mean, it's somebody in the bottom. It's just to get in, or like once they get in?
I would say just to get in.
At the bottom, it's somebody in the bottom. You've got Cornell, who, if they lose to Yale, is going to be sweating it out on Selection Sunday. Hopkins, if they lose to Maryland, they're going to be sweating it out. So Cornell's test is probably the most difficult, because they maybe have the most to gain by beating Yale. Like, they beat Yale in the semifinals, they're comfortably in. But that's a really hard game, and probably also have the most to lose, because if you don't beat Yale, then that's another spot in your resume that looks a little questionable. The thing that I will be interested to see, if it comes down to, say, 2 spots, and it's Cornell, a team that loses to Yale in the semifinals of the Ivy League tournament, against the Towson team who just lost in the CAA championship game to UMass, does the head-to-head from back in Charlotte come into play? Because remember, Cornell beat Towson when Towson was the #1 team in the country. It was the second game in 3 days. Does that come back to haunt the Tigers and knock them out?
Ooh, you know what? All this talk, I'm just happy I don't have to be the person to decide
Sunday.
all this.
We all get to know on Sunday.
Oh, my goodness. And we won't be talking hypothetically anymore.
We got 3 more days to talk hypothetical. It's going to be great.
All right.
Still to come, we've got more D3 life. We got twice in one show. There's nothing better than that. We'll check in with a couple of the top 3 teams in the country. York and Salisbury looking to earn spots in the conference title game.
pace with the Calgary Roughnecks. This is Box Lacrosse 101. Today we'll be talking about shuffle passing. As we're doing this drill, we want to make sure that our stick stays above our shoulder and we're passing, we're following through, right? We're not making any cradle motions when we catch it. We're controlling the ball before we release it, and we're not trying to race up the floor as we shuffle. It's more about control than it is about speed.
You don't give a girl confidence. She already came with a lifetime supply. The question is, what do you do with all that confidence? Do you ignore it? Or do you give her the tools to harness it? Tools that will help her trust her instincts, make her aim true, and put her in complete command. Provide her with these things, and that confidence will grow strong enough to banish all doubt. You can't give a girl something she already has, but with a little help, you can give her the power to change everything. No stringing, no adjustments, a revolution in women's lacrosse, the Dynasty Warp Pro.
You're watching Lag Sports Network.
Hey guys, it's Megan with Ellison, and I have some exciting news that you are going to absolutely love. We have a new show coming out called Ellison Off Script, and it's pretty simple. We go off script, and we have the best of the best in the lax world that we talk to. First guest, Miles Jones. Second guest, Marie McCool. We go completely off script, talking about music, fashion, clothes, whatever just comes to mind. So just be on the lookout. It's coming soon. This is a good way to end a show. How about some more D3 highlights?
Yeah, let's roll through a couple more scores we got. It is the postseason. More Division III teams taking the field in conference tournaments. Two really big ones in the CAC. Why don't you got York and Frostburg?
Yes. So we got #1 York Spartans. They hosted Frostburg Bobcats, and York came out on top in this one in the semifinals of the Capital Athletic Conference. They won 10-3. Now for York, Davis led the way with 4 goals, with McGrath adding on 2 goals to that. And Frostburg's loss, Rippert had 2 goals. He led all goal scorers for them, but York comes out on top, #1, 10-3. They're moving on to the Capital Athletic Finals.
Yeah, crazy to think that they are the top seed in this conference, because the conference boasts Salisbury, a team that is traditionally one of the top teams in the country. And speaking of Salisbury, in the other CAC semifinal, the 3rd-ranked team in the country, the Seagulls, taking care of business against Christopher Newport, 14-6 your final in that one. Leading the way, Josh Melton with 5 points. He had 4 goals and an assist. Another 4 goals and an assist from Zach Pompey as well. Nice 8 saves from Brandon Warren in goal. Overall, the Seagulls move on to the CAC championship game. Salisbury and York, Saturday for the title. 2 of the top 3 teams in the country, not in the conference, in the country, battling for that title. That's a big one.
Really, really good on Saturday.
Speaking of really good, we've got good ones for you coming up tomorrow. 4:30 Eastern time, we start with our pregame show, runs you all the way through the night for the CAA semifinals.
Yeah, we're going to be very, very busy here tonight on Thursday. We got halftime shows, we got post-game shows, and we got Lacrosse Now, like all the lacrosse you need.
Yeah, so stay locked in. Lag Sports Network. It all starts with the semifinal #1, Drexel and UMass battling for the right to go to the championship. Then we got Towson and Delaware. It's going to be a fun night. We will see you here tomorrow.